Okay, hello everybody, and welcome to episode 2 of Sustenance of Self and Society by Allah, which is really an initiative to see how we can, especially in the times that we live in, do whatever it takes to look after ourselves and really sustain our body, mind, and soul. We're very excited to feature a young and fabulous brand called Freshlings as part of this episode. All through this lockdown, the reason I kind of brought them on board was all through this lockdown. Uh, just one fine day on Instagram, I started seeing these beautiful photographs of greens, people sharing fantastic recipes using these greens, and suddenly greens were the coolest thing to do. And so I reached out to Freshlings. I pinged them on Instagram, and I started subscribing to their box of plant nutrition. So every Friday, I began to look forward, especially in these fragile times where there's nothing really to hold on to except hope. I started looking forward to my box of greens that would arrive every Friday. Beautiful box of four types of greens, spinach, kale, and I let the team from Freshly speak more about that. But I reached out to them because I felt that the greens really helped us kind of look after ourselves. I mean, we all know how important greens are, but in some way it also became something that we look forward to, and it became like, in some sense, a very, very positive symbol of hope. When I reached out to Preeta Suresh of Freshlings, we kind of thought we could curate a session where we talk about the genesis of this brand, and really about how by consuming greens and consuming greens on a regular basis, we're also actually making a difference to the larger ecosystem. So for those who don't know, Freshlings is a subscription-based box of plant nutrition that attempts to make eating greens easy and affordable. We have with us today two representatives from the brand, Preeta Suresh and Suhail Ismail. Welcome, both of you. And I'm quickly going to just introduce both of them to you before I let them introduce the brand in more detail to all of you. Preeta Suresh has 10 years of experience in communication design and co-creating brands. She's passionate about urban farming, good design, and minimalism. Suhail Ismail is ex-Amazon, and he loves his cats, and I wonder where his cat has disappeared now. He was right there. And video games, and he loves to eat clean and all things that are sustainable. Thank you so much, Preeta and Suhail, for joining us. And I'm going to start off really by letting you both introduce brand Freshlings to us, and really what triggered the idea of this brand.
Right. Thank you so much, Akila, for the introduction. It was really nice. And I think beautifully put it. I think it was a very strange time that we came to be as well. We actually started in February, and I think the lockdown and all of the things that came after that during the COVID came in March. So yeah, it was a rapidly changing sort of environment of what we had planned with Freshlings. But yeah, I think we'll go through our journey so far. It's been short, but where we came from before this and where we are now and what we're looking to do is what we'd like to talk about. From the perspective of greens, a little more than greens as well, because it is about plant nutrition at the end of the day. So yeah, I think we'll start off there. Thank you for the introduction and having us here. Suhail with me. We both work on the same team. And yeah, we're excited to be here today. This will be our first Facebook Live.
Yeah, that's true. Thank you for having us.
Right. So could you speak about, when you say plant nutrition, could you throw some light on exactly what, I mean, plant nutrition is like this jargon that we're listening to like really often these days. Could you talk to us a little bit about, I use the word greens and Preeta used the word plant nutrition. Could you like tell me what exactly it means?
Sure. So I think everyone is familiar with the fact that, from when we are young and you have to have your daily intake of greens, and everyone knows that greens are good for you. But this is something you sort of take for granted, and nobody really realizes why you are eating any specific amount of greens, or or how it's impacting not just you and your meal, but the larger scheme of things, right? At Freshlings, while the greens are what has gotten us, like you said, you saw us on our Instagram page and you thought the greens were cool and that's how you got involved. But we are looking at the entire spectrum of plant-based nutrition because it's like an untapped gold mine, which is waiting for just the right amount of spotlight to get on it for people to really truly appreciate that it's not just one or two varieties that you might see in your everyday market, but there's a whole rainbow of variety that's available and each has so many benefits. And we want to just bring that into we want to bring that into people's homes, let them appreciate, let them understand that there's so many options available, flavor, taste, and nutrition based, which is what we want to bring to homes everywhere.
Right. Preeta, could you talk a little bit about, where you sort of, do you have farms where you source this? Like, how does it work? Could you take us through that journey?
Sure. So I think the journey where we began is, it's been a few years. I think the base of it is a few years before. But in terms of farming, so we network with farms that are primarily greenhouse and controlled environment agriculturists. So the way they grow, and we help them as well in terms of, because our goal is to help farmers, not just in terms of finding, a end supply for them, but because the demand is where we are building the demand, right? But we're also trying to teach them what to grow and how to grow it such that it doesn't necessarily have to be in a traditional or conventional sense, fully grown or yield per acre sort of thing. So where we are coming from is we're teaching our farmers, the network of farmers that believe in the same ethos that we do, which we will get into, soon. The fact that nutrition per acre is actually primary versus yield per acre, because in the conventional sense, every farmer is being paid for based on the yield he has, and that yield is actually based on the climatic conditions. And we live in changing times. We live in vagaries, right? It's going to be flooded at one point. We're not going to have water at one point. How do you maintain that sort of climatic condition? So control environment agriculture in itself it's all of this is science-based. None of this is just, growing on its own somewhere. It's all science-based the way it's grown. So it's grown efficiently. So resources are used, like every little inch of land that's being used, every bit of water that's being used is being tracked at this point. And when it needs to be watered, how it's being watered, what nutrition the plant gets, every little bit is actually tracked. And the farmer actually, all he gets to do is get the yield at the end of the day and get paid the right way, whatever he would, even for a full yield or for the smaller yield, for a baby plant. Let's say it's a baby spinach. He's still going to get paid the same way he's going to get paid a fully grown spinach. Why would he wait like for the entire, life cycle of that plant to grow? You'll have more cycles for the year, right? To go baby spinach, not only is it more nutritious, you also have more cycles for the year. So yeah, there's a lot of interesting bits here that we are working with that goes deeper, like Suhail said, than just growing greens for, our benefit. I think because there's a lot of geek speak there, because there's we know it's great for iron, we know it's great with vitamin C, some of it is better for phytonutrients, but it still doesn't get people to start eating it, right? We've all known that all along, and we read enough and more facts about it. Why don't we eat it though? So this was one of the first things we did. In our own team, we started seeing how we would like to get it. How would we force ourselves to eat greens in some sense like that? So that's how it started as well.
Right. Suhail, but the way, at least I perceived it on Instagram, it's people are really, really experimenting with their greens. They're trying out all kinds of recipes and, mixing different kind, making kale pesto, really experimenting with their greens, right? And using it. I remember Preeta told me in one of our conversations leading up to this, she said she found it really interesting that someone had actually used one of the leaves in dosa batter. So could you talk to us a little bit about how the Instagram revolution is also kind of, everybody wants to kind of showcase things really well, and how therefore it's also kind of fostering a culture where people are, sort of thinking out of the box, experimenting with their greens, and it helps, right? Finally, you're ending up eating them, so it's good. Could you talk about that, please? Yeah.
In fact, what I feel like what we do is just sort of a drop in the ocean. The discovery that people are getting, the achievements that they are putting up on, forget Instagram, I'm not saying just social media platforms, but the initiative that these people are taking to cook maybe non-traditional greens, what would be considered exotic greens in a conventional sense, because it's food. Food is a universal language, right? And that's the most powerful part of this journey for everyone, I feel, because you're impacting something that is part of everyone's everyday. So we've been amazed. I don't think when we set up Instagram page also, we had any idea what kind of, how do I say this, customer feedback we would have. I mean, our goal was to showcase our products and to create a platform for people to share experience.
Right.
I think is what every consumer brand should do, but we've been overwhelmed. We have not just on the day we do deliveries, but throughout the week we have recipes, we have images, we have videos pouring in. It's been quite great.
Yeah.
To add to that, as a community, I mean, we did think we'd have a community. I think it's every brand's dream to build a community. Like it is a community sort of thing. Some brands would like, right? And this is something that is close to us as well, and that in some way has translated. It's interesting because creating is, I think, a very important part of anything that you do. And I think creating in this sense in cooking it's been interesting. And the fact that it is a discovery platform is what we wanted to build. And people are exploring, these plants. And as he said, it doesn't necessarily have to be exotic, has to be an exotic or continental dish. It's just it's an open sort of field and people are just playing with it so beautifully, and it's
Tell us some stories, Preeta. Tell us some of the interesting recipes or new things that you have stumbled along the way.
So one of the things was I know one of our she's been our subscriber since day one, and she never posts on Instagram as well, but it's very important for us to hear from her when she tells us personally this is what she did, because she's got kids and she puts baby pak choy in her batter while she's making it. She looks forward, she creates her entire meal for the rest of the week and she tells us this is what she's making for the rest of the week. And that gives us so many ideas. I mean, I cook at home with these greens now, and it's changed the way I do things. The way I use greens more often, and my kid gets to eat salads every other day. She literally can just take off from the table and eat a piece of salad. I didn't think that would be a reality in some sense, but that's happening. Other experimental stuff, people are a lot of baking is happening. I know baking is big right now, but to use the herbs in ways to make desserts,
rosemary or thyme-based baking.
Some beautiful
stuff.
Baked goodies. We have I think in terms of interesting dishes, all of them have been pretty interesting. I can't choose one.
The number of gourmet chefs at home is quite staggering.
I know, lovely. Preeta, in the introduction that you sent me, you spoke about how it's a subscription box that's easy and affordable, right? And often anything organic comes under, everybody's talking about how expensive or unaffordable it is in some sense. Could you talk about what went into, how did you kind of arrive at this pricing? And why do you think it's not expensive?
Okay, so I'll first get to the bit about, so in developed nations, right? I mean, we're still getting there, we're not there yet. In developed nations, they term all controlled environment agriculture and hydroponics or soilless agriculture. It comes under beyond organic. It's a category of its own. So organic means you're growing without pesticide and you grow sustainably, right? Those are two things about organic. About beyond organic, which is where we are at, it's about zero pesticide. It's about no heavy metal contamination. and it's also about zero biotoxicity. With the way we do it, I'll explain how also.
Right.
Because we irrigate our crops using like RO filtered water. It's irrigated. The irrigation of the crops itself is using clean water. So the water is tested. Like it almost like is an operation that happens, in a sense on the farm. Like the farmer gets to go in, he checks his operations for the day, he tests everything, he tests his soil. He tests his water. There is no soil here. That's the so yeah, those are some parameters that they check, and all elements are captured. Like all of this data is captured. So this is the one thing about this foods. But the pipe dream is at scale, this kind of agriculture, hydroponics and control environment agriculture at a scale will actually be affordable in the sense that it will be in the same price range as regular soil grown. Because
Okay.
it is a dream. It is something that we should achieve. It is still there. Currently, the way we are selling it at is more affordable than in retail. But the goal is to get more and more affordable, because our mission at the end of the day is clean food for all. And one day that's what we would love to do.
Right. Preeta, would you think that, especially in the context that we are in now, with the pandemic and all of that, where everybody's talking about building the immune system and stuff, would you think that eating greens and also therefore sustaining a larger ecosystem is especially important? I mean, either of you could comment on that.
So I don't really think that the pandemic would be a reason for this to be more important or not. I think that one thing that has helped us as Freshlings, the brand, is we've always been conscious of the entire food system. The traceability is an incredibly important aspect about food, which might be more prevalent in other places of the world. And perhaps now, because there's a pandemic and people have time to maybe research and you have more time to think about the smaller things that you've taken for granted before.
Perhaps,
and
yeah.
Food could be one of those things, right? And if you really pay attention to things like that, where is my food coming from? Or what has it been through? These are things that maybe, I don't know, I can't speak for everyone, but maybe not everyone has thought about these things in detail, but this is something we have kept at the forefront of our business. And we believe that this is how food should be looked at. And if the importance is given from the farmer, if he has guaranteed demand for his produce, he's more at peace. He's doing a better job. He knows that whatever he grows is probably being grown with the best of his effort, and he knows there's a ready market for it. And I want to touch upon the point you brought up a little bit earlier, where organic produce tends to cost more, is only probably because of a broken system. In an ideal world, I don't think that should be the case, because the goal is for everyone to receive nutrition for their food, not to argue over the price of their food. So we're probably doing very small things to get there, but like Preeta said, maybe in the longer run, more farmers will be working along these standards, and more nutritious food to be available at the right price points or the affordable price points for more people.
Right. Preeta, I'm going to ask you about from a communications perspective, brand communications perspective. How do you intend to create like a sort of food consciousness among people? Like, how are you also trying to get them to be aware of this food system, so to speak? At this point, I don't know. I mean, I'm excited about greens, and I know greens are good for me, and I know that it's exciting to kind of experiment with my greens. But how do you intend to also create awareness and sensitivity about this food system, so to speak, in your communication?
Right. So one of the things, like I mentioned earlier, since we are actually tracking every detail of how something is grown, and we don't want it to be just like a check box, right? We just don't want to say what people are saying, like it's clean.
Right.
I mean, it has to account for something, right? It has to amount to something. So we are actually looking at a way we talk about your impact. every week that you receive a box, what is your impact in terms of the water you save, the land that you save, because forests that are untouched are made by you. I think it is again co-creation in some sense, because I think it takes the demand and the farmer to create this, and we're just like in the middle of it, right? We're just here, we're just enabling this to happen, but it is co-creating, because the demand is actually deciding how much the farmer has to grow, and that impact we are going to co-create with consumers, and we're going to communicate that over a period of time. Yeah, so I think besides that, in terms of communicating with people, I think we want to be really authentic and transparent in every way. I think at every level,
Right.
Because what's possible is possible, and what's in our control is what we're going to be able to deliver, right? And yeah, this is where we're at, and being able to translate that impact in terms of some interesting way, right? Because really, just I think for people, as I said earlier, I think if you're just being told like, hey, you ate this much iron today, I don't think it makes any difference to people. It makes a difference when they feel like it's actually made a difference to their life, because they're living healthily or
Yeah.
and besides
Yeah.
that, they're impacting something for real in terms of a number. So I think
Right.
that needs to be communicated, and that's what we're working on, some kind of calculator or something for them to know what it is.
Right. Suhail, I read that you used to work for Amazon, and then your introduction also said that you love to eat clean and you're interested in all things sustainability centric. So I'm going to ask you about your own journey.
Okay.
And like when did you decide to make this shift, and really what prompted you to, and how does one actually stay the course?
Stay the course. Okay, so I will put it this way, right? So I was in Amazon for a couple of years. I bounced around a couple of processes within the company, and I think it is a tipping point that might come to some people. I guess for some people, getting into Amazon would be the dream. But perhaps for me, it was the place that I realized that it wasn't the dream that was what would have made any sense to me, I guess. Maybe just being part of a larger system that I didn't relate to was what made me decide to leave. I can't say that I found my true calling right after, and that's when I decided that sustainability and in that direction, sustainable agriculture was the way to go. But I think it's very important to, even if you're part of a large organization or a small one, but any organization has a goal or a direction, and being able to relate with that direction on some level is the most important thing. And in the last few years that I've been here, I think I have found that calling. Perhaps lucky in that sense that it came to me so soon after my stint at Amazon, I guess. So in terms of staying true to that, I believe that if you found your calling, staying true to that is no effort at all. If you believe that you're being valued.
Preetha, what about you? I read that you have a background in...
Yeah. So I think I've always enjoyed working with people in terms of building something meaningful. I think whether it's an identity of a person or a brand, and sustainability and sustainable growing. I think growing food became important to me after I had my daughter. Like, we're looking for clean food and understanding it further. I think spending more time trying to understand what's happening in the world, right? And where we are at in India and what other people are doing outside. So I think there is a way here, but we had to look beyond that and see what are people doing outside to move forward in terms of using technology, or in the agri space, what are they doing to move the blocks forward. So in that sense, I think that was truly interesting, because it was in a way designed in a systemic way. Like, it is like looking at it like from a really huge perspective, and then but it's taken its time, right? I think in a way it's organic in that sense, because it's taken that time to kind of build that part of the business where the farms are there, the network is there, and then to have actually the final bit where you close the loop with actually seeing people enjoy it, like people actually wanting it,
Right.
people actually looking to use it. So I think that sort of like end experience, I think building journeys are interesting
Yeah.
as well, because the
Yeah.
stories, and now we're seeing those stories happen in that sense. So for me, I
Right.
think it is incredibly like, exciting, and I'm happy doing that. So.
Right. We'll talk a little bit about, how does one actually store the greens? I mean, either of you could comment. Like, what's the best way of like when you get your box? Oh, okay,
Okay.
as is. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
You talked about.
yeah. In his case, I think it's an unopened bag, Sohail.
Yeah, this is
Yeah.
a salad bag I received on Friday, and it's just as is. It's still absolutely fresh. I haven't
Right,
got
yeah.
up to this week's salad bag yet, but I think if you were to open your bag, Preeta has a couple of interesting ways to keep them fresh.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
Preeta, show us.
I sort of opened my baby spinach bag. I used my bok choy already. So this week we had baby spinach and baby bok choy. So
Okay.
I put mine in a plastic box. So ideally, when you get a lot of people want to wash their greens these days.
Yeah.
I think it is peace of mind as well. We do it in the most sterile conditions. We do all of the work, but if people still want to wash their greens, it is what it is, right? People want to do that. But it is very important to know that dry greens, like greens have to be super dry for them to be stored. Even a droplet of water is going to cause damage to the greens. So once you take it out of the bag, if you're looking to use a little and store it again, one is like folding the bag again using a full clip and storing it without any air going in. The other way is I use a plastic box that I already had earlier.
Okay.
I keep it like super dry and I just store it in this bag. Another way is use a tissue kitchen towel or a kitchen tissue. Any one of those would work. A nice towel also works. You roll your greens in it, dry greens, you roll it, and you place it inside a Ziploc cover or a box like this. That also absorbs water. So if you feel like there is some moisture at any given point, that towel or that kitchen napkin is going to absorb that, and it stays dry.
Right.
Yeah, it's going to be like 1 week is good. We've heard of folks holding it on for 2 weeks and more, and they're like, "Hey, it's still great. We're like, good, use it."
Yeah.
We have to send you the next bag.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you guys like plan your like meal? Like when Friday, like you said, people send you stuff like how they plan like their meal with the greens, right? Could you give us some suggestions or tips on how to do that?
So I think for people who don't know how we send our boxes out, we might as well just like get into the details a little bit. So we have one salad component, and we have one that's a variety. It's basically greens. So we try and incorporate a different variety of greens every week. One is a herb, and the other one, like if you're lucky, it's a surprise box for that week. So that's something that we are trialing with different farms to keep it exciting every now and then.
Mm-hmm.
So we have, it's just 2 people at home in my case. So we just mix it around. If it's a noodle, an Asian stir fry with the greens one day is definitely for salad. So for 2 people, the salad's good for 2 meals for sure. So that could be 2 different meals on 2 different days. The herbs are great to put into either you're making a dip or you're using it as on a pizza. I think it depends. Honestly, there are so many options.
So
yeah.
I would say, okay, yeah. So if it had to be in my case, yeah, I have like these 3 people who consume.
Preeta, could you be a bit louder, please?
Hi, yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, better.
Yes. Okay. So yeah, in my case, it involves a 5-year-old as well. So yeah, so I showed you the baby spinach. I'll give you one example of something that I made with baby spinach. I had a little bit more of baby spinach. I have the Excel box. So this is like a jar of baby spinach pesto that I made.
Okay.
So with garlic, with the same way you make a regular pesto with basil, right? This week we didn't get basil. So I made a pesto. So this goes great with pasta. It goes great with a sandwich. It goes even as a dressing mixed with olive oil. It tastes amazing because it doesn't have the raw flavor of a full-grown spinach.
Mm-hmm.
some people choose to use it even in juices and smoothies and all of that.
Yeah.
But baby spinach is great because it doesn't have any like after, raw flavor at all. It's so
Yeah.
tender. So it's great for a pesto. Apart from that, the other stuff. So, like I said, I think this is when you can get super creative, or you can go with stuff that you know. Like there's one person who did something recently with her lettuce. I'd never seen it before, but she made like a fried rice with her lettuce. Right? I mean, that is super simple. Like I never thought of it. Like if I had to use my salad bag, but I had to use my greens, she made like a fried rice with it. It looked great. It was
Yeah,
interesting.
we've seen so many types of greens go into dal also.
Dal,
Yeah.
Dals are
Of
super
course, yeah.
simple.
Actually, my next question was like, if you were like my household is primarily mostly like we eat Indian, and
Yeah.
so how does one actually without actually having to change our food sensibilities, how do you incorporate these greens into what we actually eat? Would you have some suggestions? Because
Yeah, I think keep it simple. Like if it is, I mean, in a typical South Indian household or an Indian household, what would we make? I mean, there is always batter in the fridge. There is always a staple would be a rice or a dal or a put or a rasam. So I would say, including some amount of it, you may not want to use all of it. If it's a dal, you're going to probably use all of your greens in one shot. It's done. If it's going to be, let's say, some batter that you want to include it in, then adai, like, your lentil batter, adai is great because the greens in that actually, I think, uplift the whole thing. It's not just your plain dal based thing. You actually have the greens. It looks great. It feels good. At the end of the day, you feel like you got your dose of greens. So, based on that whole 3 a day or 5 a day, that I don't know, a lot of people think of it in that sense, right? Have I eaten my three colors a day? We want to sort of bring that in as well. Have you checked off those for the day? Have you eaten your green for the day or for the week? So yeah, adai, koota, sambar, so many like little things that we make every day. You just need like a whole bunch in, and you get it in, right? Yeah.
Lovely. There's a question from Satrika. It's about what is your view on home terrace gardens, and what are the requisites do you provide for home kits for your customers?
Suhail can take that.
So I didn't hear the first part of that question. What terrace garden? Sorry.
What is your view on home terrace gardens using hydroponic farming, and what are the requisites what are the requisites do you provide, and do you provide home kits for your customers?
So what is our view on terrace gardens? We are all for it.
Yeah.
I think the localer that food can be grown, the better it is for everybody. Terraces are a great place because we're in an urban environment. There are more and more apartments coming up, which gives you less conventional space to do your traditional gardening. So a terrace, if everyone in the building, all your apartments are okay with it, a terrace is a great place to start. We have a huge range actually, depending on the size you have available. We have a range of home kits. So there is a website and you can check it out at if whoever's asked the question is listening to this. There's a website called futurefarms.store.
Futurefarms.store.
Yes, there is a range of home systems there that are good for balconies and for rooftops.
Okay.
And these are hydroponic systems. So there would be no soil involved. They would help you save a large amount of water because they all work on recirculation. You just need a power point and you would need a supply of RO water.
Right. Okay, super. Thanks. Preeta, we had talked about you sharing some recipes or some little things that we could try out, like from the Freshling scheme.
That was
could you
the
take us through that?
I showed you actually. So that was my pesto. I didn't have a plug point or anything here to be able to blend anything for you or make it.
Okay.
So
could you take us through that, like how you made that?
Sure. So of course, first was a bag of baby spinach. That is ready already. I'm just going to run through it. If people want to take it down or if they're already looking it up somewhere, it's great. Second would be garlic, a few cloves of garlic, I used about 5 because I like the garlicky flavor. Then there is olive oil. There's a little bit of salt. I mean, any kind of seasoning that you can add. You can add Parmesan cheese, but it won't store as well, I feel.
Did you use walnut?
Yeah, and I used cashew.
Okay.
So yeah, cashew. You can use any kind of nuts. Pine nuts is the original basil pesto, but yeah, it's not really accessible. Then I used cashews. So yeah, cashew, garlic, olive oil, and yeah, that's about it. And salt, of course. So that was my jar of baby spinach pesto. Yeah.
Super. And I also noticed that this time you also sent everyone like strawberries.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Are they grown on your farm as well, on the same?
So they're greenhouse grown farms. They are grown in controlled environments again.
Right.
So in greenhouses, there are different modes to grow. So they could be soil-less. It doesn't necessarily have to be hydroponics, but they're protected environments. So it could be grow bags. That I think more people are aware of grow bags. It could be drip irrigation within a protected cultivation with soil also. But primarily, because we are more leaning towards soil-less and that's our strength, that's what we do. There are other ways to grow it, but this is our sort of like, we lean towards that method of growing.
Yeah, there exists a set of standards actually called the Good Agricultural Practices. It's a global standard called the GAP. It's just GAP, and a global. So we try our best to stick to these with our farms, and we ensure that farms that we work with also keep these standards at the forefront.
Right. At this point, you deliver only in Chennai, right?
Yes, we are Chennai based, correct.
You're Chennai based brand. I just had one last question before I'll let you will sign off. Is it's one thing to kind of go organic as far as your greens are concerned, but how would you advise that people actually make that shift completely to organic, and how easy or difficult is it? Because I know that I myself, like, I do some things organic and then I'm kind of like just succumbing to like like non-organic stuff. So how does one consciously make that shift?
I think it goes back to that same thing that we talked about earlier. Can you hear me? Yeah. I think it goes back to that same question of, I think at scale, if more farmers and more farms were enabled, or farmers were enabled by the beyond organic method of farming or control environment agriculture in some sense, I think if at scale it is enabled, it is a pipe dream. It is possible for all of us to have all clean all the time. Yeah, I mean, it's the label, right, at the end of the day. But if we could achieve that in some level, it would be it. But to say we can shift altogether there, it won't be a reality today. I mean, we'll be honest about it, right? Because it's getting there. It should get there. The idea is to get there. But to shift all of it right now, because the entire ecosystem has to change for that. And that's going to be...
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's also like you pointed out earlier, right? That even if you want to do it, it might end up being too expensive to do it.
Yeah.
But I feel like subconsciously by asking that question, you sort of arrived at half the answer, right? Because wanting to do it is the answer.
I know.
Yeah, correct. If more people demanded it, right? And if the demand actually could actually enable farmers to do it, it will happen. It has to happen eventually. And a price point will arrive with that, I think.
Right. Super. We're really looking forward to what to expect on Friday. And, thank God it's Friday has kind of shifted in this pandemic. And we're looking forward to our box of greens. Thank you so much, Preeta and Suhail, for talking to us and for enlightening us on some things that we really had no idea about. We hope that more people, take to plant-based nutrition, and we all sort of start consciously eating clean, because that is really so important to sustain. I agree with Suhail that the pandemic is no reason to do that. It's not the only reason to do that. But I think that the pandemic has definitely in some way altered the way we think about things. And that's really what I meant, that, it's given us some time to sit back and kind of take stock of our lives in terms of how we want to live it and the way forward. So congratulations to Freshlings for doing such a fabulous job. And thank you for coming on board and sharing your ideas with us.
Thank you so much, Akila, for your time, your questions. I think they were great. I think it was comfortable talking to you as well on the subject that we have been so passionate about. Thank you for having us here. Look forward to Friday as well to get you.
Likewise.
Yeah.
Thank you, Suhail.
Have a nice
Bye-bye. Thank you to everyone who tuned in. This conversation will be available on our YouTube channel as well. We have a really interesting session on Friday called Rise and Shine with the Spirit of the Earth, a very close friend of mine, Jayanti Somasundaram, who runs the store and who's very, very passionate about heritage rice. Is going to regale us with some fabulous stories about rice. And we also have on board a cultural anthropologist and a nutritionist. So we're going to be talking about rice. The session is called Rise and Shine, and it's on Friday at noon. We will be sharing details of that session. And Preeta and Suhail, if you have time, do log in and sign up for that session as well. Thank you, everybody, and have a good evening. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.